Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese has called off the Quad meeting in Sydney, which was scheduled for next week. The announcement follows US President Joe Biden's cancellation of his visit to Australia. Instead, the leaders of Australia, the United States, India, and Japan will convene at the G7 summit in Japan this weekend. Albanese informed about the cancellation of the meeting at a news conference. The Quad leaders meeting will not be going ahead in Sydney next week. We, though, will be having that discussion between Quad leaders in Japan, he said. Albanese, however, added that it is still possible that Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi will visit Sydney next week. Mr. Albanese did not comment on whether Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida would still visit Sydney. President Biden recently declared that he would postpone his visit to Australia as well as his trip to Papua New Guinea. The decision was made due to ongoing uncertainties and intense negotiations with the opposition Republican Party to prevent a potential default on the United States debt, which would mark a historic event. Asia Society Policy Institute senior fellow Richard Maude said that the cancellation of Biden's visit to Papua New Guinea, which would have been the first visit by an American president to an independent Pacific Islands nation, could set back Washington's battle for influence with Beijing in the region. President Biden has shifted his focus to domestic affairs, engaging in negotiations with Republicans to avert a potential US debt default by the end of the month. As this matter holds significant consequences for the American economy, with potential ripple effects on the global scale, it is understandable that Biden has prioritized resolving this issue. Furthermore, the Australian Prime Minister acknowledged Biden's disappointment regarding his inability to visit Australia, instead proposing that the Quad leaders convene during the G7 leaders meeting in Hiroshima. Albanese said that all the four leaders, namely President Biden, Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi and himself would be attending the G7 summit in Hiroshima over the weekend. India and Australia are not part of the G7 group of 7 rich nations, Britain, Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Japan and the United States, but have been invited to attend the summit in Japan. In November 2017, India, Japan, the US and Australia gave shape to the long-pending proposal of setting up the Quad to develop a new strategy to keep the critical sea routes in the Indo-Pacific free of any influence amid China's aggressive behavior in the region.
Subscribe to Oneindia channel and never miss an update.